Hey everybody, I'm here with Jason and Rod Keen. Jason Deathridge, Rod Keen from S.H.A.R.P. How you doing, guys?
Doing
Howdy.
well.
So you guys are in British Columbia, correct?
That's correct.
All
Though
right.
it should be noted that our relative positions in British Columbia are more distant than probably any two places in all of Europe or something like that. So
Yeah, we're
Wow.
he's
about 1,000 kilometers north of him.
Holy crap.
Yep.
yeah.
So I'm glad to be talking to you today. I'm a huge fan of this band right here, the Surf Hermits. And
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the Angry Red Planet. Um that guitar playing just blows me away. Um, and you guys are both so modest about your abilities, and that's what makes it cool talking to you. But first of all, tell me, it's Sharp is an acronym. Tell me what that stands for.
Well, it was just kind of off the top of our heads. We've worked together on all sorts of things forever, but because we were both on Sharwaji Records and we're both kind of into this surf prog surf thing. I don't know what you'd call it. It just seemed like a natural acronym. Surf Hermits, Anger Red Planet. It just sort of spelled sharp. So we're like, yeah, let's go with that.
Awesome, and that came about pretty quickly, right?
Yeah. I used to travel like after I moved away from Jason's community. I'd travel and uh, annoy him and his family for a week at a time, and unfortunately, I haven't been able to do that in about 7 years. So we made plans since we both got signed. Why not try and see if we could do a collab? It seems to be something a lot of the surf bands like to do, whether it be splits or not. But we'd write together, and yeah, I went and spent a week in his studio. What 6 months ago, and that Sharp album is what happened.
Yeah,
Yeah, like Rod, we've always tried to collaborate, over time, and we've sent things back and forth, obviously remotely. But yeah, there's a magic about being there in person. And the really cool thing about this project, like Rod I think you were here about 5 days, and we
Yeah,
did a tune a day, and there was nothing pre-planned about it except that Rod's coming down, we're going to do some music, and then everything happened right when it happened. Like what you're hearing on those things is you know, we, we Rod really wanted to do something live beds, um, which was great. It was a nice, refreshing thing because we've all been stuck in the studio for so long. It took some adjustment for me even just to wait, but we could just edit this, But like, yeah, so all the rhythm parts were live, basically rhythm guitar and drums, and then we fleshed it out sort of collaboratively from there, which was really cool.
yeah. I really appreciated that because I've been kind of with the exception of the times I've worked with Jason and a couple of other bands I've been in, 80% of my time as a guitarist has been in a studio scenario or setting by myself, just, playing to drums I've recorded or playing to someone else's track. So to actually be in a room and be recording at that time, at the same time has been it's really fun. I know it's what most bands do, but unfortunately, with our schedules and things, it's just not something I can do very often. So it was a lot of fun to just like,
Yeah,
here's a song. We got see how long it takes. Sometimes it took 8 takes, sometimes it took 12. But
yeah.
luckily the songs
Sometimes
weren't.
it took two.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, Rod is modest about his abilities, as you said. Rod's one of those guys. Like most people that just sort of play by themselves and learned in the basement and playing the records and stuff, and didn't pursue a professional career in it. Only they top out somewhere skill wise. But Rod has always been from the very beginning when I knew him, so incredibly versatile and such a great player. Like I've used him on other projects in the studio, sort of as a producer, and it's like if I say to him, hey, I want this to sound like Mark Knopfler, like he can just do that, or I want this to sound like Steve Vai, but not like Joe Satriani. He can do that, I want this to sound exactly like Van Halen. He can definitely do that. And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so like, as a player, I've always loved working with Rod, and we've worked across a lot of different genres that way, and and it was really fun to be almost more creative this time, you know, because usually in almost every other context, the writing had already been done, or, you know, it was a different structure of a project, you know, but this was truly a creative thing, you know, which, you know, I'm really growing to appreciate. I mean, that's what's so great about him coming out. It's like, we got to do something, you know, it's going to make us do something, which is cool. I'm always looking for things that make me do creative things, you know, and again, with such a great player, it's like, it's, you know, it's just effortless in a sense.
I think our original intention was, or at least in my mind, it was going to be like, well, how can we do a whole EP in 4 days? I don't know. So, you know, we'll lay bed tracks for 4 or 5 songs. I'll take 2 back and produce them. Jason will produce them. The ones I produced will be the Angry Red Planet portion, and the ones he produces will be the Surf Hermits portion. But it came together so fast in every case. At the end of like maybe a 6 to 8 hour session, we had a track, we had artwork, it was produced, it was everything
yeah.
Beside of mastering, it was done. Like it happened so quick because Jason, he has some really great ideas as a, you know, obviously as a drummer, but as a guitarist as well, like a melody guy. He's far more melodic than I am. I'm a riff guy more so. But between the two of us, it, you know, hey, what if we try this? There wasn't a lot of second guessing. It just kind of happened, and I'm proud of the result. It's different than both our you know, our independent projects. And even though Jason's the drummer in Angry Red Planet, for the most part, that's just my stuff I send to him, and he has to kind of work within that framework. You know, of course he does. He's his own drummer, but this was totally just him and I bouncing ideas back and forth, and it was a lot of fun. I hope we can do something like that again in another 6 months.
And we will, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it was so cool because, yeah, like Rod said, we had talked about maybe doing a split EP, but yeah, it became something bigger than the sum of its parts in a sense. You know, it was a project that's different, that weirdly is almost more towards each of our tastes in a funny way. You know what I mean? Like there's always this sort of metal aspect that I think both of us appreciate, which was kind of neat to put into a project like this that still has some real surf implications as well. You know, like there's some of the most trad surf stuff I think that either of us have ever done showed up on this project. You know, it was just such an interesting mix of things, you know, and then Rod has that baby sitar, and yeah, it just made for a lot of cool sounds.
Yeah, I was surprised. I wasn't sure who played that because I know, Jason, you're in another band that is kind of based around the sitar.
Right.
So I wasn't sure who played that, but there was that, and
yeah, that was Rod.
Yeah, there's a couple of a kind of aggressive tunes on it, but that one traditional surf song really like piqued my interest because between the two of you, I like you said, I hadn't heard that from either of you. So when I heard it, I'm like, oh, these guys are really giving it a shot, and you really pulled it off. And I'm sure the purists will notice that.
Until it gets to the Robert Fripp outro or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a couple tunes there where it's like you can see the creative process collide, like in a good way, you know, where it's like Rod's written this awesome thing, you know, with great guitar playing. It's like, okay, you can take a stab at the end section, and it's like let's turn left and like at high speed and see what happens here.
Like that one in particular, though, to me, it was like, okay, I'm doing this sort of, you know, 60s, 50s, 60s. It makes me think of like Back to the Future during the ballroom sequence.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of music from back then, like I think that's Sprague's Ball.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we go off into the heavier business, and it gets weirder and weirder. And then Jason does this whole tone solo that I wish I would have written, because it's just like the most, Robert Fripp. It's just insane. I'm like, how the hell are you doing this?
Random
awesome.
chance.
Yeah, it sounds so good.
Well, another cool thing is like your main bands like Angry Red Planet and then the Surf Hermits. are really two completely different entities, like the different sounds. But I notice on some tracks you're both playing lead, and you bring your style from each of those bands into one song. So the fact that it's a collaboration rather than a split makes total sense, and it's really good on the ears.
It was so fun for me.
Variety.
Yeah, it's so fun for me too, because I'm not a great guitar player by any stretch of the imagination, but to to be allowed by Rod in a sense to sort of bounce off of him in some of those tunes, like Interceptor, where it's like the outro is almost like a Iron Maiden song, where it's like the solos go back and forth.
Yeah,
And, it for me, it drives me to greater things than I could probably do on my own, because I've got this blistering, amazing solo that I've got to at least stand up near, which, stylistically, I think, yeah, well, within the limits of what I'm capable of, which isn't much, but I think that's where that style, that matching of styles happens in there. It's like, it's neat to have that kind of, it's not all just one thing, for sure.
Yeah. So I want to know, because I'm a huge fan of the original 3 Mad Max movies.
And that's a fine distinction to make. Yeah.
Yes. Why? I mean, obviously you guys are fans, but what is it about that you relate to so much that you put that in your videos?
Well, for me, like when I was a kid, I live in this rural area that I'm in now. And the only thing, like, I didn't have TV, I didn't have anything. The only thing we had was the video store. And I even had to rent the VCR from the video store. And, that would have been in the early 80s, early mid 80s. And so the stuff that's on the shelves is all of this, like, Ilsa the She-Wolf and, Road Warrior and, like all of these crazy kind of movies, and I remember watching the Road Warrior, and at that point, in history, it was like nuclear war was something that could appear literally any minute. It felt like that as a kid.
Yeah,
and,
really.
And for me, like watching Mad Max is like, educating myself on the realities of the wasteland that I'm gonna live in. So, I mean, I just love that movie. It just gives me adrenaline every time, and it's like I could do all the music that I ever do in the future to Mad Max things. I think, it's like, I just, like, for me, the feeling it gives me is just still exactly as a kid. It's just, there's something about it. And, the momentum of the kind of music that, we created and that I shoot for all the time it's basically like a Road Warrior car chase 100% of the time for me. That's what goes on in my musical head,
Awesome. Before we go any further, I want to remind everybody that the link for the S.H.A.R.P music is on their Bandcamp page, the link in the description. Also, if you want some pie merch, the link is right down there. A bunch of surf music resources, forums, which Rod and Jason know much about. Go frequent those, and you'll learn a lot about the different bands that are coming up. There's tons of new bands, and right now I want to thank Jason for sending this to me, which is going to stay on that set for the remainder of my tenure.
Someone will steal it and ride it. It's desperate to be ridden.
Yeah. Now, who did the artwork?
So artwork for my project was done by Joe Yod, who is Rude Commissions. He's done work with the Underwater Bosses and some other bands, does gig posters and stuff like that. You can find him on Facebook, Rude Commissions. Fantastic artist. Like, I don't know if anyone who's familiar with my second album, which features that character, but in more of a tableau of other things. Like, I gave him like one sentence of description of a vague idea I had, and he spit out this exact thing. Like, the cover was exactly how I'd imagined it. There was I don't think there was any edits at all. He just said, "What do you think about this sketch?" I'm like, "Okay, that's perfect, thank you." You know, so yeah, and just wait. He's working on album 3 for me, and it's
Oh
gonna
wow.
be awesome. Oh yeah.
So it's
Oh
done
yeah.
already?
The album or the cover?
Yeah.
The cover I think is underway. He sent me a couple of just test sketches. I'm like, yep, go with that. And yeah, the album's been done for a long time. I probably have album 4 done by now. So,
Wow.
so
Wow.
yeah.
Rod, you were also it's for me, I know that you do a lot of your artwork. You actually designed the shirt for us. Tell me about what inspires I mean, the Angry Red Planet kind of speaks to Mars, but what is it about that aesthetic that makes you put together your own artwork?
I've always been, it's been years since I've been really serious about like drawing or art or anything like that. But I like making things in general. I like album covers, posters, things like that. And basically, what I do is crib images from the internet and then just keep on altering them, stacking them on top of each other, and then applying filters till it gets kind of an older lo-fi look. And so for the Angry Red Planet, I'm very much drawing from 50s and 60s movie posters, old album covers, old VHS cassette covers. Very much with S.H.A.R.P, the images I did for that, same kind of concept. I just like things looking kind of gritty, like it came off an old record. You know, you found an old record in the basement and the cover's all worn and looks well used, well loved, but it has a character to it. And it definitely applies to the vibe I'm going for most of these kind of retro music projects like Angry
Awesome.
Red Planet and S.H.A.R.P.
So when you guys approached Mike at S.H.A.R.P with this project, what was his initial reaction?
He was just very receptive. You know, it's like I sort of hit him up and I said, "Hey, you know, got a side project thing. You know, it may or may not be to the label's taste, and that's fine if it's not. But I want to give you a first shot at it." And yeah, there was no question. I think he creatively trusted us to give him something that you know, that he can be proud of on the label. You know, I think it fits, you know, in a bit of a fringe area of the label. You know, definitely not probably not their core creative output, but nonetheless, yeah, there was no question about it. It was going on, and you know, it was great. You know, it happened quickly. So
Very
Excellent.
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, it was great to watch your progress on Facebook. I love to see people collaborating from your bands, like you collaborated with Jim Colby, and I thought that album was excellent, or the split. Any chance this will be on vinyl?
Well, I haven't had any word about that yet. So vinyl still has some backlogs. Surf Hermits has shipped, you know, which is great. But yeah, it's just a matter of, yeah, you're a lucky man. I don't even have one of those yet. But yeah, so it's not impossible. It depends on what the label feels like they want to do. It depends on our own finances a little bit. You know, there's always a bit of a shared responsibility there. So yeah, I don't see it as impossible. I think my understanding of S.H.A.R.P is that their goal over the long term is to sort of get everything onto vinyl. So things will often appear later on, you know, reissued on vinyl in a sense.
Yeah.
There's some rumors that the first Surf Hermits album might show up that way. So yeah, I don't know. That's not impossible. I mean, of course, we'd love to see it. We'd love to see it on vinyl for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys so much. You always have my support. I think you guys are way talented beyond your modest thoughts of yourselves, and I consider you good friends. And thank you so much for supporting what I do, and if you guys ever need anything, you know I'm always here.
We
Absolutely.
appreciate
And yeah, and vice versa. You've been such a champion of the scene generally, but you know, certainly of our bands, which we absolutely appreciate. You're going to see more from S.H.A.R.P 100%. You know, I think that's just going to be a regular thing. Absolutely. In terms of collabs, there's a big project coming from the Surf Hermits involving a bunch of other super cool players. You know, which is expanding kind of by the day in a funny way. It's probably going to be a full album, you know, so we'll see how that goes. There's probably going to be a split with Sis Malakian sometime soon. Yeah. And that's, you know, there's some work happening behind the scenes there. You know, I don't want to name any other names, but there's, you know, they may not want to be associated with us, but Rod is going to be involved in that as well. So that's for me on my end, that's stuff that's coming up, and we're going to see a third Surf Hermits record within the next few months. Absolutely.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Rob, what about the Angry Red Planet?
I think I've got about 3 songs more or less done, and probably about a half dozen ideas. I'm unfortunately not quite as prolific as Jason, but I'm hoping to have a second album written and recorded by the year's end, if not sooner. Then it's kind of up to whether it passes muster with the label, and we'll see where it goes.
Now I'm not.
Yeah, Rod is quality, not quantity. Yeah, I'm the muscle. He's the brains.
Well, thank you so much, guys. You know, congratulations on S.H.A.R.P. That, like you said, it happened rather quickly. So one day Jason mentioned it to me, and then I saw it on Facebook, and then like before I know it, the album's out, or the EP is out. So
we attack from ambush.
Yeah. Well, kudos on your hard work and your constant writing and putting out good stuff. It's just something that a lot of people notice, and you like I said, you're modest. Your quality is very good.
Thank you.
Oh, we appreciate that, and yeah, you know, thanks so much for championing stuff like this. We definitely appreciate it, and of course, thanks to Rod for being a longtime creative partner. And coincidental news, I was digging through some archives here, and I found the first thing Rod and I did together, which was called Code 3 with another emergency services worker in 2005, October 23rd.
What kind of music is it?
I think it was mainly improvised stuff, wasn't it? Like, I can't even remember.
The track list is Latin Jam, Vi Jam, Jazzy Shit, DB's tune. I think that was Dave Bryan. He was playing drums on that. I was playing bass, Rod playing guitar. Sultans of Shit, Tepid for Teacher, and 80s thrash melody.
Tepid for Teacher. That's great.
Dude, you got to send me that 80s thrash melody song. It's like one of my favorite genres.
Oh, yeah.
I got a lot of that. I got a lot of that stuff I could send you. Albums worth of old crappy thrash.
Yeah. I was in a thrash band in high school, and we recorded a demo, and it got lost. Man, I wish we would have had that.
Yeah. Rod and I have done a lot of things. Like this was the beginning, but we played in punk bands together where he's the iPad player, and that's where I started playing guitar, and theremin. I think you played theremin on that as well. And then we've played in like a fusion band, you know, and done lots of metal stuff. So it's been fun for sure.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys. I know it's a little early there. What are you are you 3 hours behind?
Yeah.
I'm 2 and
I'm 3.
Oh, okay. Wait, you're in the same province and you guys are in a different time zone.
Yeah.
There's I think there's 3 time zones in our province or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's big.
Wait, Central, Mountain, and Pacific?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much.
You're a
Thank you.
rock star, Ryan. We love you.
You take care.
We love you guys too, man.